Hello and welcome back. This episode we're going to be taking on Kuran Station and all of the nastiness it implies. Basically, Kuran Station is the one that's here to introduce you to the idea that enemies also have combination attacks, and it hurts you as much as your combination attacks hurt them. Well, maybe not that much, but you get the idea. Can't say you've ever actually had that much luck with space stations in the Phantasy Star series. Phantasy Star 2, one of them crashed into a planet, exploding both. And in Phantasy Star 3, you have to take one back. Ooh. These things summon float mines. When both of the spawn slots are filled, the command mine will initiate a combination attack that whacks everybody in your party. Thankfully, these are the only machine types that are actually able to take normal damage from techniques such as Nafoi and so on. These guys may look similar, but they actually have a different attack animation. They actually hack downwards. They're not too tough, but they can really hurt you if they get the drop on you. That happened while I was prepping for this actual video. Gisar will be very, very useful to us. And here's the first of Ren's 3 weapon upgrades. The Hyper Jammer actually does stun machine-type enemies, and is actually the basis of a very powerful all-kill combination attack called Circuit Breaker, which is performed in tandem with Rune's lightning spell. Aside from that, we got a repair kit, and nothing special here. Yeah, you take to a satellite in Phantasy Star 3 and need to fight a boss for it, but it automatically gets destroyed in the next generation that follows. Oh well. Not much can be done about it. This is a bad scenario, because there's a little bit of randomness in initiative, and it's very easy for an enemy to get off a combination attack and there being not all that much you can do about it. The worst thing possible is to be ambushed by a combination attack formation. Speaking of problems, this is also another enemy combo attack formation. And since my spark failed, I'm gonna have to take my medicine. I am so glad I have Raja for this dungeon. Like, you don't even know. So, the thing about Dark Force, as it has already been mentioned a few times, is that Dark Force is basically the primary overarching antagonist of the classic Phantasy Star series. Pretty much all of the truly major calamities of the Algo system are centered around him. The tyranny of King Lashiek was engineered by the influence of Dark Force. The corruption of the Earthmen who built Mother Brain and attempted to weaken and destroy the peoples of the Algo system was also engineered by Dark Force. The civil war instigated on board the Elysia 3 was also caused by Dark Force. It's not to say that everything bad that happens in the Algo system is because of Dark Force, but if there's a Phantasy Star game, there's a fair chance that Dark Force is somewhere in the shadows. Speaking of which, Dark Force is not its name, you know, like big bosses in Metal Gear and so on. Dark Force is what it is. We don't know much about it, even though we fought it in 3 games or so. All we really know is that it's a powerful, malevolent intelligence with unclear motives but an absolute goal of destroying all life in the Algo system. And it pretty much always acts through agents such as Lashiek, the Earthmen, the city of Lashut in Phantasy Star 3, and Zio in this game. Ah, Napalm Shot. I'm going to be holding on to that for a while. It'll actually be very useful for a boss we'll be fighting later. Kuran actually used to give me a lot of trouble for some reason. Maybe it's because I have a propensity for getting lost. Or sometimes, as was in this case, hitting the wrong buttons. When I was doing my exploratory prep for this video, I kept on selecting Rune and hitting the escape technique instead of what I wanted to do. So I had to basically run through this place 3 times. So apparently lightning can strike twice, as I just ate another charge cannon shot. No, wait, that was the 3rd time. Yeah, the 3rd time I got hit by it, I was actually ambushed by the combination attack formation, so there was nothing I could do. So we're actually coming to the end of Kuran. Even if I had left in the random encounters, it wouldn't have been that long. That's one hell of a thing to hide in shadows. Wait, how do you know? So, meet Dark Force. I use pretty much all the buffs I can. Dark Force hits pretty hard. But it actually has one critical weakness. It's intensely weak to the destruct element, and Chaz's Rayblade and Githu techniques will do enormous amounts of damage to it. I won't say it's the only thing that makes this boss fight beatable, but it does make it a fair bit easier on me, as you can see. It's very important to be able to move before Dark Force does, because if it gets off 2 burst rockets in a row, well, you're in trouble. Dark Force was also cooperative in that it showed off all of its attacks, but it tended to stick with the stronger ones. Also, the name of this video is the name of Dark Force's boss track. I actually went through it, and in the main story of Phantasy Star 4, you know, discounting any side quests or whatever, special boss music is used equally as much as the normal boss music, like the kind used for Iglanova and Juza and so on. Which suits me just fine, because the special boss music is really, really good. Phonon Mazer is probably its weakest attack. I guess it's supposed to do more damage to those weaker against physicals, but with barrier and defenses up, it's just pretty feeble, which is unfortunate. Yeah, Dark Force has looked different in every classic Phantasy Star game, except that its forms have almost always really had the same kind of face as you see here. Anyway, that's it. Yeah, we used to get pasted by Dark Force back when me and Regdrin were first playing this game, until we realized, hey, you know, we could gain levels in this game. You may want to pause and stop to think about exactly how much we know about Rune at this point, because it's really not much. We know he's a wizard, and we know he was friends with Alice. And that's it. We know more about Ren than we do about Rune at this point, even though he's been traveling with us for quite a bit longer. I don't really see this as much as a middle finger towards the player as I used to, because even if Desolace's situation hasn't been fixed, the satellites have been repaired, meaning that Demi is now free to restore the climate control and maintenance systems on Motavia. It's just Desolace that has problems now. However, as you've probably noticed from the time bar, this is not the end of the video, and we'll be using our brand new ice digger to get around pretty soon. All of Desolace is now open to us, which means I'll be cleaning up some optional stuff for the rest of this video and probably all of the next one. The Ice Digger is actually substantially more powerful than the Land Rover in combat. However, we don't actually get any vehicle random encounters in this video, so sorry. Yeah, the Ice Digger has more powerful main weapons and even an all-destroying special weapon. However, it has less total special attacks than the Land Rover does. I hate cute. Get me pictures. Pictures of Spider-Man. Yeah, while I'm shopping, that actually reminds me, there's this fun little game for the TurboGrafx 16 that was recently translated by some patcher group or other called Photograph Boy, which was a side-scrolling action photography game, and in one of the levels your photography boss actually wants you to get pictures of Spider-Man. I think the Freelance Astronauts did a stream of it. Any case, elemental weapons. These will actually be very useful to us. I'm going to switch out Rune's weapon with the Dream Rod because Rune needs the defense. And I'm only buying one Thunderclaw for reasons. I will still be holding on to the Psycho Rod. You see, the Psycho Rod isn't just a one-note thing, it always removes enemy debuffs, and that's going to be intensely useful in an upcoming boss battle. And I decided to buy one just to check it out, but I didn't want to end up sacrificing too much of Rune's firepower. He is the party's top blaster, and I don't want to really try to make him into a tank. It's just not something he can do. So anyway, while I fumble around, I do eventually remember where I'm supposed to be going. Here's the problem. About 2,000 years ago, something came to Desolace, something that helped liberate the Algo system from the tyranny of Lashiek and the corruption of Dark Force. It has remained here ever since, and we are going to retrieve it. Anyway, all of the enemies in this cave are horribly weak against fire attacks. There's not really that much special about them. I really just included them in here for completionist's sake and, you know, for the lulls of how weak they are to flames. I wish Raja had more offensive abilities. But I guess he's a specialty priest. I forgot that I actually left that duplicate encounter in here. I guess occasionally even I have an editing glitch here and there. Now this alone would have made the trip worth it, but there's still more to be found. You guys! Ah, the Musk Cats. Mayao the Musk Cat was actually one of your party members in Phantasy Star 1. I don't remember how useful he was, but he was definitely plot necessary to get to the next to last dungeon, the Air Castle. What? Oh, that's a reference to Phantasy Star 1. Mayao had a bottle of Alsalin, which he wanted to use to free Odin from, being turned to stone by Medusa. However, it couldn't get the bottle top off because no opposable thumbs. The Silver Tusk was Mayao's ultimate weapon in Phantasy Star 1, and looking at the illustrations, it looks like it could easily be used by as a hand weapon by someone who fights like Rika does. It also grants Rika the Destruct element, which means that there are no longer that there are no longer any enemies that can resist her attacks. And there are a fair number of enemies that are now weak to them, including the final boss. She's going to stay equipped with it for the rest of the game. Anyway, I'm making my good old save here, and I'll be seeing you next time.